Hey everyone, it's Brennan. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another video. Today, I'm going to tell you every single book that I read in 2021. And for that, I'm going to be looking at my phone a lot at my Goodreads list. If you don't follow me on Goodreads and you want to be friends, I have it linked in the description below. And at this point that I'm filming this video, I've read 132 books this year. I think I started my goal at 80 and then I increased it to 100 and then I increased it to 120. So who knows what I will put it at on January 1st of 2022. But I'm going to predict, I'm filming this on December 28th and I'm hoping to finish 2 more books. I'm about halfway through a physical book and then I am hoping to finish another audiobook by the end of the year. So I'll talk about those also. But I will quickly, briefly go through the hopefully 134 books that I read in 2021. And when I say go through, I am just going to tell you the title of the book and the rating that I gave it. So without further ado, let's start this video. The first book I read this year was The One by John Marrs. I gave it 4 stars. The second book I read was Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. That's Stormlight Archive book 4. I gave it easy 5 stars. And then I read The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. I gave this 4 stars. I read ZODIAC Academy book 2, Ruthless Fae, which I gave 5 stars. I think it's the only ZODIAC Academy book I've given 5 stars to. And then I read The Girl in the Tower, which is the second book in Catherine Arden's Winter Night trilogy. I gave that 5 stars. Stand corrected. I read ZODIAC Academy book 3, The Reckoning, and I gave it 5 stars also. Oh, me at the beginning of 2021. And then I read Wild at Heart by K.A. Tucker. I gave that 4 stars. Then I read The Winter of the Witch, the last book in Catherine Arden's Winter Night trilogy. I gave it 5 stars. Then I read The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn, and I didn't know what to give it, so I gave it 4 stars. Then I read The Sweetest Fix by Tessa Bailey. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read ZODIAC Academy book 4, Shadow Princess, and I gave it 4 stars because it hurt me very badly. And then I read No Exit by Taylor Adams. I gave it 4 stars, probably more like 4.5. It's a really good thriller. And then I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I gave this 4 stars, really like a 3.5. And then I read The Big Fat Surprise by Nina T. Coates. This is a nonfiction book. I gave it 5 stars because I don't know what else to give nonfiction. And then I read Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I gave this an easy 5 stars. Then I read The X-Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I gave this 3 stars. It was okay. And then I read The Song of Achilles, which I also gave 3 stars, but a more emotional 3 stars because I didn't feel like this needed to be as sad and painful as it was. And then I read Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. And I'm looking at this now and it says Sea of Ruin book 1. So I'm like, where is she gonna go with this? I gave it 3.5, 4 stars. I think I gave it 3.5 stars because I was mad at how long it was. Like I think it was close to 500 pages. Then I read Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. On my birthday. I finished this on my birthday. Gave it 4 stars. And then I read What Doesn't Kill Us by Scott Carney, another nonfiction book, which I gave 5 stars. Actually, I gave this 4 stars. I wonder what it did to me to remove a star from this nonfiction book. And then I read The Pisces by Melissa Broder. I think I gave it 4 stars. I gave it 4 stars, but this is a book that I still think about. So like 4 stars on Goodreads, but like 5 stars in my brain. Also, this lighting, can you see? It's really bad. I'm sorry. It's like kind of stormy, cloudy outside, but like also sunny. So sorry. And then I read The Project by Courtney Summers, which I have at 3 stars on here, but I wrote 3.75. I don't know. And then I read Normal People by Sally Rooney. And when I finished this, I gave it 4 stars because I was like, who can I recommend this book to that will enjoy it? But since then, I have gone back and given this book 5 stars because it's just special. Sally Rooney's writing is just really weird and special. And then I read Circe by Madeline Miller, and I gave it 5 stars. It's so good. Then I read Swimming Lessons by Lily Reinhart. This is the one and only collection of poetry that I have read, and I gave it 3 stars because I just don't think it and maybe poetry isn't really for me. And then I read Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. I gave this 5 stars. This is probably my favorite book in her Brown Sisters trilogy. And then I read this Pisces book that's The Art of Living Well and Finding Happiness According to Your Star Sign. I gave it 5 stars. And then I read Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. I gave this 5 stars. It was a great wrap up to this trilogy. And then I read Heroes by Stephen Fry, and I gave it 5 stars because I love his mythology retellings. And then I read The Cruel Prince by Holly Black, and I gave this 4.5 5 stars, and I never continued with this series, so that's something that I need to do in the new year. And then I read Becoming by Michelle Obama. Easy 5 stars, such a good memoir. And then I read One by One by Ruth Ware. I gave it 4 stars. And then I read My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. I gave it 5 stars. And then I read The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. I gave this 4 stars. And then I read Maybe You Should Talk to Somebody by Lori Gottlieb. This is another nonfiction book. I gave it 5 stars. Then I read Spartan Up by Joe DeCina. I gave it 5 stars. Then I read My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyin Khan Braithwaite. Another 5 stars. And then I read The Spartan Way of, also by Joe DeCina, 5 stars. And then I read Tweet Cute by Emma Lord, which is a YA romance, and I gave it 5 stars. This book was so good. And then I read The Lesson by Cadwell Turnbull. I gave this 4 stars. This was like true science fiction, and I had a really good time reading it. And then I read Verity by Colleen Hoover, and I actually feel like I gave this like 3.75 stars, gave it 4 stars. You know, this book. And then I read 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Zodiac Academy Book 5, Cursed Fates. I gave it 4 stars. And the review I wrote for this book says, "Why do these girls have to do me like this?" And by these girls, I mean Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. And then I read American Royals by Catherine McGee. I gave this 3 stars. I'm not really interested in reading more in this series. And then I read Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. I gave this 5 stars, a great memoir. Then I read Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. It's the second book in her Hot and Hammered series. Gave it 5 stars. And then, when did this start? So this started on May 21st of 2021. I read Truth or Beard by Penny Reed. And this is the first book in her Winston Brothers series. And I gave it 5 stars. And then I read The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I gave it 4 stars. And then I read The Highwayman by Kerrigan Byrne. Gave this 5 stars. So good. Such a good historical. Especially if you like darker romances. And then I read Grin or Beard It, which is the Winston Brothers book 2. I gave it 4 stars. Ooh, I gave it 4 stars. Jethro just wasn't my favorite of the brothers. And then I read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I gave this 4 stars. And then I read Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. I gave that 5 stars. Then I read Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. I gave it 5 stars. Then I read Beard Science by Penny Reed, which is Winston Brothers book 3, which is Cletus's book. And in my review, I wrote that I actually give this 6 stars. And then I read Wise Blood by Flannery O'Connor because I went with my family to Savannah, Georgia, and Flannery O'Connor's house is there. And I was like, oh, I should read a Flannery O'Connor book. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't really know what was happening in it. It stressed me out. And then I read Tris 6 Venom by Penelope Douglas. I gave this 4 stars. Then I read Float Plan by Trish Dollar. This says that it's Beck's Sisters book 1. So I wonder when the next book comes out or if it's out already. I gave this 4 stars. And then I read The Maidens by Alex Michaelides and I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Destiny's Embrace by Beverly Jenkins and I gave it 5 stars, a really good historical. And then I read Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And my review for this just says Nina. That's all it says. 5 stars, Nina. And then I read Tools of Engagement by Tessa Bailey. I gave it 5 stars. And then I read Hairpin Bridge by Taylor Adams. I gave it 2 stars. If you're keeping track, that's been my lowest rating of the year so far at this point. And we're finished this in July. Then I read Confessions by Kanae Minato. I gave it 3 stars. I think it's just not for me. And then I read A House at the Bottom of a Lake by Josh Mallerman. I gave it 4 stars. Again, probably because I just didn't really know what to give it. And then I read Milk Fed by Melissa Broder. I gave this 5 stars. And then I read The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter, another nonfiction. I gave it 5 stars. This book was like really especially good. And then I read Just Last Night by Viri McFarlane. I gave this 5 stars. And then I read One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I gave this 4 stars. And then I read The Madness of Lord N. Mackenzie by Jennifer Ashley. I gave this 5 stars. And then I read Neon Gods by Katie Robert. And I gave it 3 stars. Then I read Survive the Night by Riley Sager, another 3 star. And then I read This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El Motar. And I think there's another author on this too. Max Gladstone. I gave this 4 stars. And then I read The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. This is another Dangerous Damsels book 1. It's by India Holton. I gave it 1 single star. Then I read The Patient by Jasper DeWitt. I gave this 4 stars. Then I read The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. Gave that 5 stars. And then I read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. I gave this 5 stars. And then I read The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. I gave it 4 stars. It also has a sequel coming out. I think it comes out in the upcoming year. And then I read Winter Garden by Kirsten Hanna. My first Kirsten Hanna book, 2 stars. And then I read Bearded Mind by Penny Reid. It's Winston Brothers book 4. It's Bo's book. I gave it 5 stars. And then I read Shipped by Angie Hockman. I gave this book 5 stars. And then I read Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. I just laugh when I talk about a Sally Rooney book, which is funny because these books are pretty depressing. Like, the characters are so depressing. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to go into details. I gave this 5 stars. And then I read Who is Maud Dixon by Alexandra Andrews. I gave this 4 stars. And then I read The Plot by Jean Humph Corlett. I gave it 4 stars. And then I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover, which I gave 5 stars. And then I read Dr. Strangebeard, which is the 5th Winston Brothers book. It's Roscoe's book. I gave it 5 stars. And then I read Nine Perfect Strangers by Leanne Moriarty. I gave it 4 stars. And then I read Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. I gave it's really more like 2 stars. I have it at 3 stars. I need to change that. 2 stars. And then I read Beard With Me by Penny Reid. It's the 6th Winston Brothers book, but really it's Claire's book, who is one of the female love interests. I gave it 5 stars. And then I read Very Sincerely Yours by Carrie Winfrey. I gave it 4 stars. And then I read Beard Necessities by Penny Reid, which is the last Winston Brothers book, book 7. I gave it 5 stars. And then I read For Your Own Good by Samantha Downing, and I gave it 5 stars. And then I read Velvet Was the Night by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I gave it 4 stars. And then I read If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. I gave it somewhere in the area between 3 and 4 stars. And then I read Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby, which was such an easy 5 stars, one of the best books I read this year. And then I read The Risk by S.T. Abbey, which is the first book in her Mind F series. Also, I just learned that this author died. I think she died in a car crash. Like, she died unexpectedly over the summer, which is super, super sad. But I gave it 5 stars. And then I read Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. I gave it 4 stars. Oh, and then I read A Beardy Bonus, which is different short stories within Penny Reid's Green Valley Winston Brothers universe. I gave it 5 stars. And then I read Neanderthal Seeks Human by Penny Reid, which is the first book. I think it's the first book that she wrote, and it's also the first book in her Knitting in the City series. I gave it 3 stars. And then I read A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I gave this 5 stars. And then I read The Spanish Love Deception by Alina Armas, and I gave it 2 stars. And then I read The Hazards of Hunting a Duke by Julie London. It's the first book in her Desperate Debutantes series. I gave it 3 stars. It's a happy 3 stars. It's like a fine, adequate 3 stars. And then I read The Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood, and wow, I gave this 5 stars. And then I read A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. I gave this 5 stars. And then I read The Perils of Pursuing a Prince by Julia London, the second book in her Desperate Debutante series. Gave it 3 stars. And then I finished up the series and read The Dangers of Deceiving a Viscount by Julia London, and I gave it 3 stars. And then I read The X-Hex by Erin Sterling. I gave this 4 stars. And then I read Finlay Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano. Gave this 5 stars. Then I read They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. 5 stars. And then I read Credence by Penelope Douglas. 5 stars. And then I read For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. I gave this 4 stars. And then I read Me Talk Pretty One Day by David Sedaris. I gave this 5 stars. I love David Sedaris. And then I read In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. I gave this 4 stars. And then I read The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. Gave that 5 stars. And then I read Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan, which is the first book in her Hoops series. I gave it 3 stars. And then I read Lifespan by David Sinclair. This is a nonfiction, and I gave it 5 stars. And then I read The Lighthouse Witches by C.J. Cook. I gave it 4 stars. And then I read Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey, and this is the super cute Hello Lovely box cover of it. I gave this 5 stars. And then I read Sold on a Monday by Christina McMorris. I gave this 4 stars. And then I read There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark, and I gave that 5 stars. Then I read Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I gave it 3 stars. And then I read In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle and completely planned on giving it a bad review because no one likes it, but I gave it 4 stars. I shouldn't say no one likes it, but I have mainly heard negative things about it. And then I read If the Duke Demands by Anna Harrington. I gave it 4 stars. And then I read Mine Till Midnight by Lisa Kleypas. I gave this 3 stars. 3.5. And then I read Wild Rain by Beverly Jenkins. I gave this 5 stars. Then I read A Holly Jolly Diwali by Sonia Lawley. I gave it 3 stars. And then I read The Rogue of Fifth Avenue by Joanna Shoup. Gave it 5 stars. And then I read Starry Night by Debbie McComber, and I gave it 1 star. And then I read Forever Wild by K.A. Tucker. I gave this 5 stars. And then I read Coming Home for Christmas by Rayanne Thane. I gave this 5 stars. A surprising 5-star read. And then I read Dashing Through the Snow by Debbie McComber. I don't know why I read another Debbie McComber book. I gave it 2 stars. 2.5. And then I read The 12 Dates of Christmas by Jenny Bayliss. I gave this 3 stars. And then I read Neanderthal Marries Human by Penny Reid. I gave this 3 stars, but I'm also invested in the series, but I just didn't love our love interest in the first 1 and 1.5 books. So those are the books that I have completely completed at the time I'm filming this video, but I'm also pretty certain I can read Penny Reid's Homecoming King. I am almost halfway through this, and I've got a couple days left to finish it. And I am going to anticipate, I'm really liking this, so this will be 4 or 5 stars. And then I have one more Christmas audiobook, even though it's not Christmas anymore, we can still read Christmas books. I have Sleigh Bells Ring by Rayanne Thane, and I really liked the other book I read from her, so hopefully I like this and give it 4 to 5 stars. But those are all the books that I've read this year and some books that I am currently reading. Let me know how many books you read this year. I would love to know. Comment your number down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next one.